it's fractal. There's millions of different snowflakes, and all of them are hexagonal in nature, and all of them shows evidence of fractals. Frost on the window will show you that. And so, are you guys following this? So we had concluded that the geometry of the field involved, this is the surface of the cell that is oscillating at 10 to the 11 hertz. This, I'm showing relationship between cells and galaxies. So we had concluded that the tetrahedron grid and the octahedron at the center generating the vector equilibrium in the 64 tetrahedron pattern is the foundation of the collapsing side, and that the radiative side that results is the sphere. Okay? We see the sphere. We see everything that's convex, right? What we don't see is the part that's contracting, everything that's concave, right? So now, when you look at it, the sphere intersects, making these petal lobe-like structures. You see? That's the intersection of the spheres. If there's a sphere around each tetrahedron, right? Remember, you put a sphere around each tetrahedron. Now they intersect, creating these lobe structures, and these lobes, these petals, go directly to the apex of the octahedron cavity between the tetrahedrons. That's why in this model I have red beads in the middle. These red beads in the middle are the intersection of the spheres if I had a sphere around each tetrahedron. It's interesting that the petals don't fall anywhere in the geometry. They fall exactly at the apex, at the vertices of the octahedron in the middle. And so, when you look, so I was studying this, and I was thinking about these lobes, and I'm like, well, what are these petals? What does that have to do with anything, in physics? Well, at the same time as I was studying this, I was trying to figure out the physics, of waveforms. And I was really studying hard, trying to understand waves and to understand physics in terms of waves and so on. And, I was getting a lot of headaches. I couldn't figure out what the heck was a wave. And the reason why I couldn't figure out what the heck was a wave is that when I'm the type that observed nature. And so I would observe nature, and in nature I didn't see anything going up and down like this. And the physics book kept on saying very basically that everything was a wave, right? And it's like, well, if everything is a wave, why isn't everything moving up and down like this? Traveling through space up and down like this. And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, oh my God, what is this wave thing? And it was giving me a headache. And I was like studying for months, trying to figure out the wave. And finally I got frustrated, and I thought, well, I'm going to go back to point zero. Forget all these physics books. And I just hopped in my van, went to a high lake in Canada. I lived in Canada at the time. And I went to one of those turquoise lake in the high mountains of British Columbia, which has, which is really, really flat. And I grabbed a rock and I threw it in the lake. And I'm like, I'm going to start with point zero. What the heck is a wave, right? So I threw it in the lake, and the rock hit the surface tension of the water, and sure enough, the waves came off, and I could see that if you bisected the waves, you would get this up and down motion of a sine wave. But something was not quite right. If you have this up and down motion of the wave, it's only a result of that rock hitting the surface tension of the water and pushing the molecules away. So you have to account for that force too, of the rock going through the water. So if you account for the causation of the wave and the wave, then you get a different model. You get a model of like more of a cone, because the rock is sinking and the wave is going out. And that's when it hit me. Oh my God. I realized what had happened. This is this two-dimensional problem again. Guess what? Our universe is not on the surface screen of an oscilloscope. Our universe is in spherical coordinates out here. Okay? And so what happened is that because physicists and mathematicians are really not good in dealing with rotation and angular momentum, torque and Coriolis effect and all this, they flattened the wave. They made it like this. So what I did when I had this elimination of the cone, I went to the side of the lake on the sand and I drew a wave with a stick, but then I put a line through it like this, and I realized that the wave is actually a 3D vortex. Can everybody see that? And I was like, oh my God, they flattened the wave. That's why I'm confused. Nothing in the universe goes up and down like this. Everything in the universe orbits and rotates. This is when this is one of the reasons that Einstein field equations are not complete. It's because the torque and the Coriolis effect that's resulting from rotation is eliminated by attaching the frame of reference to the rotation of an object. When they calculate the forces involved in a black hole that's rotating, they attach themselves to the black hole so that they're rotating at the exact same rate, so they don't have to deal with torque. Go ahead.
Does rotation have something to do with time and the way time's interacted with?
Yeah, and we're going to see that in a minute. So, imagine that there is, I'll give you a simple example. Imagine that there's an electrical motor turning in front of you, and there's a shaft, and you're going to try to grab that shaft, right? Now, if you grab that shaft and you're not moving with it, you're going to get heat, you're going to get torque, you're going to get all sorts of effects, right? Thermodynamic also. Your hand is going to start shredding, right? Okay, but if you turn with the shaft, then there's no force. You see? Now that's a big difference. Okay, if you're calculating things where things are turning with, if the observer is turning with the thing, then you're going to miss a lot of forces. Imagine, for instance, calculating the forces that are going on in a galaxy. 300 billion stars orbiting, right? But instead of being an observer looking at the object orbit, you're attaching yourself to it, then there's not going to be any forces. That's a big omission in current physics. But what happened there is that I realized that the waveform is not a thing that goes up and down like this, but actually a thing that goes in orbit. And when you look at it that way, then the wave frequency, the wave amplitude, and the wave length are all a result of angular momentum, rotation. You see? That not being accounted for. When you look at the sun and you imagine the electromagnetic field of the sun coming towards you, typically you're imagining something coming towards you like this, right? But actually it's coming towards you like this, right? And